knowledge. Break the chains and experience the knowledge. Find power in power and truth in knowledge. Once you know, no one can take your knowledge. I read book after book, studying the power, spent hour after hour, learning black power, destroying lie after lie. For the power found self in these pages of conceptual power. I found the truth and I'm not letting go. Frederick Douglass and Booker T found power. Nat Turner found truth in his darkest hour. Mama Harriet set us free and stood for we. In these pages I found power in our history. UEP birthed the panther in me. In me, never let a fascist pig carry me, not me. Revolutionary thoughts, all I read. Normal for my soul, keep my spirit on high. Revolutionary thought is always on the rise. Yeah, it's always on the rise. Love. Knowledge is power, and power is knowledge. Break the chains and experience the knowledge. Find power in power, and truth in knowledge. Once you know, no one can take your knowledge. I read book after book, studying the power, spent hour after hour, learning black power, destroy lie after lie. For the power found self in these pages of conceptual power. Our problem was never us, our problems was them. Them being the ones who robbed and took us, kings and queens, nation builders. From stolen legacy to Anthony Browder, building institutions with black knowledge. Build black libraries for black scholars, building black minds, urban philosophy, urban black reads, every one place. Black owned bookstores, we support your space. To all black authors, we give much thanks. Knowledge is power, and power is knowledge. Break the chains and experience the knowledge. Find power in power and truth in knowledge. Once you know, no one can take your knowledge. I read book after book, studying the power, spent hour after hour, learning black power, destroy lie after lie. For the power found self in these pages of conceptual power. Our problem was never us. Our problem was never us. Our problem was never us. Ooh. Knowledge is power, our power is knowledge. Break the chains and experience the knowledge. Find power in power and truth in knowledge. Once you know, no one can take your knowledge.
Peace and love, family. Peace and love. Welcome to another powerful discussion with your sister, Dr. Ma'at. I know a lot of you are sitting back thinking, didn't Dr. Ma'at just go live on Sunday at 7 p.m.? I sure did, family. And if you didn't catch it, it was a powerful, powerful build between Dr. Dennis Asar Winkler and I. We talked about Dr. Carter's original, or his intent for Negro History Week, which evolved later into Black History Month. So, family, if you did not check out that powerful discussion, make sure that you do. But tonight, family, we're having an impromptu, discussion. I was in class today, and let me stop sharing my screen. I was in class today, minding my Black business. All right, I was minding my Black business in class today. I was teaching my students about Ohm's law, and we actually I had them build their first circuit, and they measured voltage and current. So I did that, and then after class, a few students came past to kick it with me, as they always do. So it's about 7 students kicking it with me, and one of my students, we were talking about polygamy, and then we went from talking about polygamy to religion. And one of my students, shout out to Noah, he's backstage right now, family. We're going to show him a lot of love. Noah said to me, he said, Doc, he said, Christianity is an African religion, Doc. And I said, really? And he said, yes. And he started, and I said, I got somebody that can school you. So, I go call Ankh. I call Ankh, right? AKA the God killer. So Ankh is building with the young brother and trying to get him to see some things. And so I said, let's go live. And Ankh said, yeah, let's go live. So, family, we're getting ready to take it to the YouTube streets. I got Brother Ankh right here backstage. Brother Noah, my student. Shout out to Noah, engineering student over at Morgan State. He's backstage. And we're going to hammer it out. I'm actually let them hammer it out. Because Dr. Mind, is it going to be 2-on-1? I said, no, it's not going to be 2-on-1. I'm going to let you and Brother Ankh build. And Brother Ankh said, I'm going to take it light on the brother tonight. I'm going to take it easy on the young brother. And so you already know Brother Ankh comes from that school of thought that I only debate my equals. All others I teach. So Brother Ankh is really coming here to teach. It's not a debate at all. We just want to pick the young brother's mind, family. But before I bring both of them up, make sure that you head on over to meltrek365.com. Grab your Carter G. Woodson t-shirts, family. I'm dropping the link in the chat. Once you come over here and look, Brother Ankh, for you, I made sure that I put the brother in the hoodie. Remember last time I had the sister in the hoodie? And you said, wait a minute, Dr. Ma, this is really a unisex hoodie. And I say, absolutely, Brother Ankh. So if you come over here to Meltrek 365, you click shop now, click shop now. And then you can either grab the hoodie. Okay, you can grab the hoodie. And it is a unisex hoodie. Notice I got a brother rocking the hoodie and there's also a sister rocking the hoodie. All right, so it is a unisex hoodie. All right, celebrating 100 years since the establishment of Negro History Week. Notice Dr. Mize uses her words very carefully, right? Since the establishment or the founding of Negro History Week, which was established in February the 7th, 1926. They started planning it in 1925. But even in 1924, there was a Negro History Week that was initiated by the fraternity Omega Psi Phi, which a lot of people don't even know. All right, but this is a shirt. So you can get the hoodie. You can also get the shirt. The shirt is also unisex. All right, the shirt is also unisex. I'm actually rocking the hoodie right now. You all can see it's vibrant colors. It ain't no cheap stuff. So you see I got the hoodie on right now with the face of our great ancestor, Dr. Carter G. Woodson. So family, make sure that you do head on over to meltrek365.com to grab your t-shirt and to grab your hoodie. All right, family. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up Ankh, the God Killer. Shout out to the God Killer and community of skeptics and pseudo killers. And Brother Ankh, you also have what is it called? The Bomb Squad now, right, Brother Ankh? The Bomb Squad.
I ain't got the Bomb Squad. They popped up out of nowhere. Youngins. They ain't young. They about 30. You know, that at that age where you start to grasp, that there's something, and they doing their thing. But you know me, I got a no fly zone. So I ain't do it just to. I wanted to do it so I could catch the people coming in, the rigorous ones coming in, and they could have somebody to lean on, box on, duck, bob, and weave. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't have that. I had to learn all this. I had to self-teach myself through all the mistakes. It wasn't, I had to look at Dr. Ben work and all, and John Jackson, and really focus on what they were saying, because, we caught up in religion.
Right.
So we only hear the religious ideas they promote. We hear that Jesus is black, Christianity is African, blah, 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 blah. The Hebrews is it. Right. That you had to squint your eyes through all that.
Come on.
To get to this point. So now, the brothers don't got to squint their eyes. They can just, listen to the conversation and let's get it in.
Let's get it in, Brother Ankh. And so I'm going to bring up one of my students. He's actually currently taking me. He's taking me for, hold on, Noah. Let me bring you up. Noah took me for EEGR 105, so Introduction to Electrical Engineering, and you took me for electric circuits, and now you're teaching me for signals and systems. Is that not correct, Mr. Noah?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
All right, okay. So let's the people and be honest. What's your thought about having me as a professor? Honest answer right here. So you've had me. This is 3 semesters.
Yeah, 3 semesters with Dr. Bailey. I think Dr. Bailey's a good professor. I find that I end up learning a lot. I think that in the classroom specifically, I think there may be a bit of like a tough love situation going on with her and a lot of the students.
Absolutely.
But I do think that you end up with a lot of useful information. You end up being able to put a lot of the information into practice, especially with the end of semester design projects that we do. I think those are like a really good way to kind of test what you've learned and actually implement that in like a hands-on way. So I think that's a really good experience. And also I think that I would struggle to say that Dr. Bailey wants to see any students like fail. I think she gives a lot of opportunities for students to not only learn, but also be able to just like pass the class in general. So
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And I think that's a fair assessment. I think that's definitely a fair assessment. So let's talk about today. So you were walking up the hall and I was finishing class and you were coming up the hallway and we had this whole conversation about, initially we were talking about polygamy. You weren't involved. You were kind of just, you and Freeman, y'all were just walking up the hallway. And I was in there with some of my students and we were talking about polygamy. And then we went from talking about polygamy to interracial relationships. And then we talked about, would you date somebody that practiced a different culture from you? And then somehow, once we introduced culture to the conversation, it went from that to religion, right? And then you made the comment, you said Christianity is an African religion. And my response, and I said, I don't know, Mr. Noah, about that. And so could you start us from there? What made you say that Christianity was an African religion? And then what happened after that from your perspective?
Okay, so we were having a conversation about intercultural relationships and like how people engage in those. And then the topic shifted, or in that Mr. Freeman made a point about how Black Americans engage with the Black church and how that's a bit different as you spread across the country as denominations begin to look different. And another student, I'm not really sure of his name, made the point that Black engagement with religion is, while important, something different to the conversation at hand. And then I'm not sure what was specifically said that prompted me to say this, but then I said that Christianity itself is an African religion. And then Dr. Bailey disagreed, and another student disagreed as well. And then there was a third student. I think you said he was from Cameroon. I think.
Yes.
Yeah. And he weighed in, and then you called. You told me that you had someone who I should speak to. And I'm sorry, I'm blanking on your name right now. I don't mean to be disrespectful.
God killer.
That's what I said. I said the God killer. Didn't I not know? I said that.
Yes,
I'm getting ready to call the God
ma'am.
killer on you.
Yes,
I think he's time enough for you. I got somebody that I think is time enough for you. And I'm glad that you decided to come on, because I know initially you were apprehensive. You're like, Doc, I don't know about going live. It's gonna be 2-on-1, and then even the God, he's like, nah, it ain't gonna be that.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely not that. And over here, and I do want to show this really quickly before we begin. Over here, I always tell people that we engage in revolutionary intellectual discourse, right? And so this is the difference between intellectual and non-intellectual discourse. Over here, we have respectful dialogue. There's rational thinking, clear and well-articulated points, evidence-based reasoning. So you ain't just going to just say something and you don't have evidence to substantiate what you're saying. Openness to correction, because see, a lot of times, Brother Noah, people just want to be right. I just want to be right, and you want to argue even when you're wrong. You know what I mean? So there needs to be an openness to be corrected, right? Like if you're wrong, and Mr. Noah, you've recognized this in class. There's times when I will put up an equation or a wrong number, and students, what do? You raise your hand and you say, Doc, that's not right. I don't get defensive. Now, sometimes I might battle it out with you, and then I say, you know what, you guys were right. You know what I mean? So it needs to be an openness to correction. And lastly, strong listening comprehension skills, right? Being able to understand what's being conveyed to you. Now, non-intellectual discourse is when you have verbal attacks, it's highly emotional, poor articulation of points, assertion without evidence. So you just saying stuff and don't have no evidence to corroborate what you're saying. People are on the defense. And then there's poor listening comprehension. So over here, family, we engage in intellectual discourse, intellectual discussion. And Brother Noah, that's what's going to happen today. Okay. So you ain't got to worry about people trying to powwow on you. It's not that type of party. All right. It's not that type of party. It's going to be an intellectual discussion between you and a good friend of mine, a good comrade of mine, whom I've known over a decade. And so I think that he's more qualified to discuss this topic with you than I am. And that's why I called him, right? Like, that's why I said, well, when you were kind of going, and I said, Noah, that's not accurate. And then I was trying to give you something. I said, no, I know somebody who is better suited to have this conversation with you. So, Mr. Noah, we're going to pass it to you first. State your premise. Why do you think that Christianity is an African religion? You have the floor, sir, uninterrupted.
Okay, so I kind of wrote this part out just a little bit just to kind of give us kind of like a framework to go off of, right? So I wrote Christianity's early ties to Africa and Africans as it pertains to its cultural identity. As it pertains to its cultural identity, directly ties to being an African religion, and the sense that like a lot of the early that not only were Africans some of the earliest adopters of Christianity as a religion, separate from Judaism in and of itself, but also those early African adopters and scholars directly played a part in not only the spread of Christianity, but kind of Christian mythology, and the framing of the religion in and of itself.
Okay, so just say that to me one more time, because you ran fast.
Sorry.
You went pew. So I just want to make sure that I understand what you're saying. So I know you said you're reading it, and this is your historical framing of Christianity. Just repeat it for me again.
That Christianity as a religion, as it pertains to its formation separate from Judaism, and some of its early adopters being African, their ties to the religion as it pertains to the mythology and the framing of the religion are tied to specific African people and Africans, like culturally, if that makes sense.
Okay, so you saying you believe that you can't separate Christian from Judaism? That's what you. That's
no. What I'm saying is that Christianity as a religion separate from Judaism.
Well, how can you separate Judaism from Christianity?
Okay, so first I'd make the claim that Christianity and Judaism are like distinct religions. That yes, Christianity is derived from Judaism and acts as a follow-on from Judaism. Yes, but Christianity as a distinct religion can in any of itself be directly tied to Africa can be directly tied to Africa, because Christianity and Judaism are distinct religions with distinct religious practices.
Okay, so pause right there. Brother Ankh, what do you have to say to that?
Well, a picture's worth 1,000 words.
Okay.
I don't want to actually say anything. I just want to show you the biblical world. And I say this for everybody starting a conversation, just trying to learn and figure your way out in a world that has been colonized by Europeans. And our ancestors was part of the greatest forced migration on planet Earth. Okay. So we was brought into a situation. Me and Dot, we've talked about the Papist Bulls for years. Okay. So it was a mandate, Papist Bull, written by the Pope. Wherever lands we discover and do not have a Christian monarch, you can bring them to Christ. So whatever Christianity that was, that's the Christianity your great-great-great-great-grandmother got. That's the Christianity my mother got. Mm-hmm. That's the Christianity my aunt got, my great-great-aunt, my great-great-great-great-granddaddy got. So whatever knowledge you into now, that ain't what we got. We got white boy Christianity colonized style, Portuguese style. And that's point blank. We don't got to debate that. But let's deal with this biblical world, because I always ask people to just take a look. Get your mind right. Go read the daggone Bible. But make sure you read the Bible with this in mind. We have a map right here. This is the Bible world. You will have to notice something right here. If you know your Bible, you know that Israel is all up in here somewhere, right? But this is the expanse of the Bible world. Well, what in the world happened to the rest of the world? Because it never was talking to the rest of the world. It was talking about this world. And for this conversation, I refuse to leave the Bible world, because they never left the Bible world. There is no circumnavigating of the globe. There is no knowing where America is, knowing where the rest of Africa is. They didn't know none of these things. They only knew this world. And that particular deity that they espoused to was a cultural deity based off of ideas and concepts coming from a specific Iron Age people. That's not up for debate. If you want to know about a people, you study their God.
Come on, teach.
Last time I checked, humans wrote the story. Now, if you think that something fell out the sky and gave to particular humans, then I'll show you racism, white supremacy. Because at this point, you're forgetting about the rest of the world. And as African Americans, we should never forget about the rest of the world. Because people that came and got us never cared about the rest of the world. They only cared about their world. and they cared about the finances and the monies and the global domination, meaning they never cared about the people who was indigenous to certain lands, right? They had certain things that they was doing that allowed them to put them in a position, racialized things, put themselves at the top during the 1700s, right? Where you became black and they became white and black was at the bottom. The angel food cake. God was always white. That's what my great-great-grandmother got. But anytime you read the Bible, I want all the believers and non-believers, when you read this story, realize this is the only world they was talking about. That's it. Point blank. That's my opening statement for this important conversation.
Okay. So, but I think, Noah, your point was you saying that Christianity and Judaism are distinct. You're saying that they are distinct religions. And let me put this off. You're saying they're distinct religions. So even though you're saying that one derives from the other, they are still distinct religions. And I'm just curious as to how you can separate the two. And you already said it, but what do you think? Do you think that you can separate Christianity from Judaism? That's what he said. He came out strong, and that's what he said. He thinks you can separate.
Yeah, but anybody know all the first Christians, they was Jews for the most part. Jesus practiced Judaism. Matthew, Mark, and Luke, all of them was Hebrews. So Christianity actually was a Christian sect. I mean, my fault, was a Jewish sect, right? It broke away. Okay, so you get like third generation Christians that go to Greek schools, right? And they adopt the Greek language. It's the lingua franca of the day. It's the language of the day. They adopt the Greek because the Greeks are in charge of their known world. Christianity comes into this experience, okay? And the Roman Empire. I always tell people that's believing anything, if you want to know about Christianity, don't study Christianity, study the Roman Empire. That's the world it came into. Look at the language it's written in. It goes from being written in Hebrew language to Koine Greek, right? Language has ideas and concepts attached to it. So now we're leaving the quote unquote Hebrew world and their experiences. And now we get Greek culture infused into Christianity and it breaks away. So we're really talking about ideals and concepts still by Hebrew people. Okay. But now it's Greekanized, Greek ideas, Greek concepts. Okay. So this is important. And let us not forget during this point, you don't actually have the fixed biblical text at all. And we know the Roman Empire. Follow the money. Actually, these conferences, the Catholic Church is actually responsible for bringing in these, quote or canonizing the biblical text during these different types of conferences. This is important. So Christianity is birthed in the Roman world. It's not birthed in the African world. And by the way, in case we forget, we always forget this when we play like we Egyptians, right? We forget we're actually West and Central Africans. We're not Northeast Africans. So even if you thought Christianity was African, that would be a Northeast African. Those church fathers come from a particular place in North Africa. Now, we're not separating the Africans to say, well, they not no more Africans. We're just simply saying that they're Northeast Africans, some of the church fathers, and some of them are mixed with Greek and all that. So yeah, but go ahead, finish your point. But that's my answer. A little bit long-winded.
No, you're good. No, you're good. But see, Noah, you saw that bit. You saw the map that he put up.
Yeah,
and it is Northeast. I mean, we're looking at it looks like Egypt and Libya, like all in this little area right there, right? So it is definitely Northeast African. But go ahead. What are your thoughts on what he just shared?
Okay, so a couple points. I think to the point that like it's Northeast African versus like West African. I think that's like a bit of like we don't like making that distinction is inherently important to this conversation. Ending in the fact that like the conversation is Christianity an African religion, not like what sect of Africa does the religion originate from, right? And the other point about the Hellenization of Christianity. yes, sure, I'll agree to that happened, but every religion that's like been introduced to a people or that has been engaged with in human history has, in some extent, been influenced by like some outside group or some outside factor, or has been reshaped and reinterpreted by other groups. So if the argument that is like Christianity is inherently in-African because the way that Western Christianity was spread was through a Hellenized lens, I think that's a bit like, I think just that's like not a fair point to make, right? And then also to the point about like, and then yeah, sure, I'll concede that like the Second Council of Nicaea is when the Bible is canonized. That's fine. That does not take away from the fact that a lot of the cultural and mythological understandings of Christianity do come from Africans and African people.
Please give me some examples of those mythologies and all the culture, the stuff that comes from African people. So your premise is that it was African people who were you said forefathers or
in some aspects. Like I don't need to defend that like every single aspect of Christianity directly derives from an African, but that major portions of the religion and concepts in the religion come from Africans. For example, the idea of the Trinity. Here I have it written down right here. Let me just find where I wrote it. Augustus of Hippo created the idea of Augustus of Hippo created the idea of sin as a concept of like sin, free will, and grace, and how Christianity engages with that. The idea of the Trinity comes from let me see, make sure I have the right person. I think the person's name is pronounced Tertullian. So the idea of like the Christian Trinity comes from this person.
That's it.
Yeah. So, and then even like early saints are also African as well. So these are like prime examples and like kind of like major parts of the religion that directly derive themselves from Africans.
Okay. So you think the Trinity, would you also say Immaculate Conception, Noah, is a part of that? A part of those concepts? Would you say that? I know you said the Trinity. What about Immaculate Conception? Are you a person who subscribes to the,
like, okay, so I think these are kind of two, I think we're kind of having two like simultaneous discussions.
No, we're not having two simultaneous discussions. You said there were parts of the Bible or concepts in the Bible that were directly directly came from Africans. So I'm asking you for some examples, and you mentioned the Holy Trinity, right? Okay,
right.
Yeah,
so it's so okay. Sorry. Maybe I misunderstood the question. I apologize. Yeah. So right. So like, do I believe in like the Immaculate Conception, or is that what you're asking?
Yeah, do you believe that's also a concept that came from African people? That was my question.
I'm if I'm being honest with you, I didn't research that specifically as an answer, so I didn't see. Okay. Like I'm not saying that it's not. I'm not saying that it is. I'm just saying that in in the research that I did to prepare this conversation, I did not come across that particularly. No.
Okay, cool.
So I'm not sure.
That's
okay,
cool.
I want to stick to geography and the Trinity. That's not an African concept. Matter of fact, that's barely a biblical concept. You don't find the Trinity in earlier manuscripts. You kind of find it later on. So that's how they know that wasn't originally anything. But that's not the Mary, the Virgin, all that stuff. Anthropologists reject that type of thinking these days. Whereas though you say, well, Heru and Aset and all that come from, Egypt, and that's African, right? That's not how we're looking at it. You would have to look at juju or voodoo or traditional African spiritual nature systems, and precisely, the Bible is a treatise against African ideas and concepts. It's diabolically opposed to the religions of Africa. It's diabolically opposed to the religions outside of Christianity, because there is only one God, and that God had a son. That has nothing to do with the rest of the world. So it's really a colonizing force, because it forces a person to relinquish their culture. Suppose I worship the water. Last time I checked, the water is the most important thing. You cannot live without water. You ain't going 3-4 days without water, but you can go the rest of your life without Christ. Not trying to throw no shots. I'm just giving you an obvious way to look at how Christianity is a cultural container of ideas that are diabolically opposed to what you're claiming it came from. That makes no sense.
Okay, so to answer that, one, I'd say again to the idea that like, all right, so not even that. So I'd go as far as to say, one, the Bible directly kind of asserts that there are other gods, right? Like God, like in the Bible says, you should not have any other gods above me, which inherently lends itself to the idea that other gods do exist, that you should view the Christian God above those gods. But even make the claim that like no other God exists, to believe something with the inherency of an objective truth would inherently be to cast out all other truths, right? So this isn't like a feature of Christianity. This is a feature of belief in and of itself. To believe wholeheartedly that something created the universe, you have to then believe that any other story that attempts to deviate from that creation narrative is inherently untrue. In the same way that if you were to believe something to be a scientific fact, i.e. the earth is round, then all other scientific facts that attempt to go against that must inherently be untrue, i.e. the earth is flat. The earth is round, the earth is flat, cannot coexistently be true at the same time, in the same way that a religious view cannot be true in the same way that another religious view is true, because religious views are meant to be taken objectively, not as how you do or don't want to engage in your life.
Yeah, but religious views are actually subjective. They're not dealing with empirical facts.
Yeah,
and let's get this straight. Let's get this straight.
Let him finish. No, let him finish. No,
I'm saying you just gave me colonialism. If you study African religions, they weren't colonizing religions. If you look at the Egyptian religion, they allowed other deities, other deities to their pantheons. You'll find Canaanite deities, different deities in the Egyptian religion, meaning they respected other people's totems. Christianity is in disrespect of other people's totems, and eloquently, you just explained it. You said inherently, for me to believe that this particular God created the universe, then of course the rest of the gods could not have done it. That is the point, because Christianity, Islam, Judaism, traditional religions are all ideas and concepts developed by human beings to connect themselves to their world. It's their worldview. Christianity asserts that there's only one worldview. And if you don't follow this worldview, you're a sinner and you're going to hell. Or you're wrong. So it puts a sense of guilt on the practitioner. And this is part of colonization. If you do not find a Christian monarch that's a Christian that worships Christ, you can bring the souls to Christ. You can conquer their land and bring them to Christ. That's wild. Even you, as a charismatic thinker, because you're a thinker.
Yes, he is.
See, and you came prepared. But what you didn't come prepared for is to have the regular conversation. Is regular. You got to look here, look at how Christianity formed, recognize it's a cultural view produced by Hebrew people. Later on, it breaks away, right? It becomes its own religion, right? It's in the Roman Empire. They considered the Christians atheists. Once they accepted into the Roman Empire, right? Because it actually allowed the emperor that was in charge, it gave him power. It's the only reason they accepted the empire. It allowed him to connect the empire together. It gave Constantine power, right? So they connected, and it gives them the winning vote. It gives them the winning army. It gives them that edge, right? That's why they accepted it, right? But it's always been a colonizing force. So the mistake here, and I'm gonna wrap it up, is that just because you got a religion, don't mean your religion got to be the only one right. If you look at a lot of traditional religions, it doesn't care about the other religion. It respects other totems, where Christianity says this is the only way.
Okay.
Okay,
So,
okay, go ahead, because I was getting ready to go to another point. But go ahead
Okay.
and address what he's saying.
Okay, so one, I'd make the argument that to call Christianity like a colonizing force or like a colonizing religion because it demands like inherent. So sorry, let's kind of go back to the start, right? So the point I was making is not that Christianity is objectively correct. That's not the point I was making. The point I'm making is to believe in Christianity, you must believe it to be objectively correct. To believe in a religion, you must believe that religion to be objectively correct. And if that religion views external religions as objectively incorrect, then you must also view them as objectively incorrect, right? So the point is not that like Christianity is the right religion or other religions are right or are wrong, right? That's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is the belief in the religion in and of itself requires an objective view, in the sense that all religions require an objective view for them to exist, right? Because they're all moral frameworks. Those moral frameworks require a level of objectivity for people to follow them, right? That's the first point. The second point I would make is that the view of Christianity as like, I don't know, a colonizing force is, I don't know, like a bit I wouldn't go as far as say disingenuous, but is framed. I don't like the way, I don't necessarily think I agree with the way you framed it, right? Because yes, you're right that Christianity was the driving force behind
enslavement and colonization.
Yeah, but it was the driving force behind Constantine gaining influence, right?
Right.
But I would not say that's a feature of Christianity. That's just a feature of colonialism and how people who engage in acts of colonial power use religion. Because in the same way that Christianity in the Roman Empire spread, or the Roman Empire used Christianity to justify its colonialization of the Western world, the Ottomans did the same thing with Islam. So, and other religions throughout human history, even if I can't like find examples now, if you want, I can find examples, have always been used as colonial forces, right? And then to the final part, I don't think that like these are inherently mutually exclusive points, that like even if I were completely to agree with you that Christianity has historically been used as like a violent or colonialist mindset, does not mean that it's inherently like African or it cannot be African because of its like historical use or its framing, or the way it frames itself as objective in comparison to other religions, does not mean that it also cannot be like African for some reason.
So let's look at the key players then. Let's play this game. Is Jesus Christ, where is Jesus Christ born at?
Nazareth.
Where is that located?
Israel. When Jesus was born, him and his family.
I just asked you now. Hold on. Okay. Where's his mother and father born at?
I would assume Israel, Nazareth. I may be incorrect about
that. So
he's
a what?
Israeli or Hebrew. Yeah, sorry.
Israelite, right? They not Africans. Okay. Hold on. They not Africans, and don't try it.
Genetic testing has
no. Listen, I'm threatening you right now. Don't try it.
Don't. No, it's gonna be
don't
bad.
Do it. No, don't do it. Genetic testing. I got the E1, B1, Stop it. The whole lineup, the whole Christian. Listen, all of Judaism. We only got to debate this. All of Judaism is a cultural container for people that are in the Iron Age. That's when they start to get their footing. This is not even a debatable thing. This is known. You're supposed to know this. Okay? And I'm telling you, all the characters, okay, the Abraham, the Isaac, the Jacob, these are Hebrew people, man. These not indigenous African people. Right? You can tell the age of the religion based off of the fact that there's one God. It took humans 350,000 years to even want to get to the point to deal with one little single idea. That's kind of shallow in the grand scheme of things. So all the people that you're talking about, they ain't Africans. You start introducing the Africans in when you claim they forming a doctrine. You name a couple church fathers. You name some ideas that really, I would say, be tied back to Zoroastrianism, because that's closer. You know what I'm saying? That's the Persian. That's the one God. You may have Ankh Norton talking about one God, but they just got him out the game. Wasn't paying him no mind. But the traditional cultures, right? They vibe off of trying to figure out the interconnectedness of nature, and they worship nature. And nature worshipers, the animists. Everything is animated. Where, like you said, in Christianity, it's an abomination to worship a tree, to worship your ancestors, and they push you to this one central point. And the central point they push you to is Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is not an African. So even if you had some points, you died the point that the main figure that we gotta bow down to is not an African. So at that point, it wouldn't even matter if he walked to Egypt and left and ran out and hid and hit him and brought him back. The figure that we have to come to love is a non-African. Non-Africans are those that walked out of Africa and mutated. And you started talking about the gene thing. They're non-Africans, meaning they left Africa. And based off of leaving that geographical boundary over time, they got into another environment and mutations occurred. In the scientific literature, there's Africans and non-Africans, and non-Africans don't mean Africans because all humans are fundamentally Africans. But when I say non-Africans, this is for you. I'm saying that the genetics of the people that are the key figures in the Bible mutated outside of Africa and developed a religion outside of Africa is all non-African. You put in the genes, I had to checkmate you on that. There's no getting around that. They want to introduce you checkmate, but I got you. You made me do it. You was gonna run to the genes, so I had to get you for you did. I threatened you, but you pushed because you pushed. Okay. Yeah, they're it's a non-African biological religion, meaning the biology that formed this religion is non-African. That's my point.
Okay, sure.
That is checkmate. Sure. Go ahead.
Sure. We can do that. I think that one, I'd go as far as to say that on a time scale, those are still African people, right? That if we define Africans, or like I guess it depends on where you want to start, like drawing these lines of like non-Africans. Like, is it like the second they walk out of like, or the second like people are born off the African continent, they're like not Africans? Then I don't know how I feel about that, but sure. Right.
No.
But even to the point that you're making, even to the point. So this goes back kind of to the original point that I made, right? That Christianity and Judaism find themselves as distinct religions. That like, even if the argument being made is that like the individuals that the Bible talks about are not Africans, the religion itself is African. That the religion itself not only are some of the earliest adopters of the religion African, the people, a lot of the ideas come from Africans, right? So the religions are bigger than just like are bigger, or a religion is more than just like the individual like God that the religion itself attempts to serve, right? That like they are cultural practices and cultural movements that the culture of these practices, or like the people who practice this culture and the culture that influence this movement are African, making it an African religion.
But you keep saying these ideas and culture is African. Yeah. What African? Describe the African culture that's in the Bible. Talk about the African culture that's in the Bible.
Okay, so again, this brings itself back to like people who were there at the start of the religion, right? So Augustus of Hippo.
No. I'm saying describe the African cultural elements in the Bible. Yeah, you keep saying ideas and African ideas, and you mentioned the Trinity, which was one idea, and he clearly told you where that idea came from. So that's what African cultural elements are in the Bible, sir?
So we can start with the idea, right, of the Trinity even itself, right? So that is an idea that while directly, I'm pretty sure it's like not directly said in the Bible in the same sense that I think like the 7 deadly sins aren't directly said in the Bible, right? But they are culturally ingrained in Christianity as a culture, and that culture is what defines the religion, or is a backing factor, I guess, in the religion, right? So even if to say that like, oh, it's not directly found in the Bible does not divorce it from the religion in and of itself, right? Let's see, because I have some of this written down, so I don't want to just like read it back at you. So just give me like, or I mean I can if you want. But let's
whatever makes you feel comfortable.
Okay, I just read it. I can just read what I have written down here. So it says, like, for example, Augustus of Hippo, his writings deeply influenced the development of Western philosophy and Western Christianity. And he is viewed as one of the most important church fathers in the Latin Church and the patriastic period. His many important works include The City of God on Christian doctrine and Confessions. And then also, even if we want to make like this claim about Judaism, we could talk about the Beta Israeli community in Ethiopia practices a form of Judaism.
I knew Ethiopia was coming. I know Ethiopia
that predates the Babylonian exile, characterized by strict adherence to biblical law. We could talk about the Limbia tribe. The Limbia are South African. Our South Africans are a notable example of African Jewish communities with genetic ties to the ancient Aaronic priesthood. Aaronic priesthood. And then even kind of back to like the genetics point. Even if like I would go as far as to say, right, that from like a storytelling perspective, right, Jesus goes and hides in Egypt. If I were to like go into hiding, why would I go into hiding near people who don't look like me? That's like if I was like hiding from somebody who's like, oh, I'm gonna go into hiding in like Japan or like Britain, where like I look, or I'm very obviously gonna stick out, right? So I'd use all of these as examples of the through lines between like Africa and Africans and Christianity.
Well, I just want to say this before Ankh responds to that. Noah, you have to be careful with Chat GPT. Okay. You have to be careful because there's a disclaimer there on Chat GPT that will tell you that sometimes it's wrong. I argue with Chat GPT all the time. And then once you change your position and say, oh, you're wrong, Chat GPT adjusts and say, yeah, you're right. I was wrong. And they'll try to correct itself once you tell it it's wrong. But so I just want to say you got to be careful when you are using Chat GPT, when you're using like the AI overview on Google. You know, when you Google certain things, you gotta be careful. Okay, brother Ankh, go ahead.
Oh, I don't mind him using ChatGPT. Use it; it ain't gonna help him.
No, I just wanted to let him know it's a way that you.
Hey, why don't you? I tell you what. Ask ChatGPT: is Christianity an African religion? I want to use ChatGPT. You can introduce that into the conversation. Go ahead and ask it.
Yeah, go ahead and ask it and share your screen, brother Noah.
Yeah, give me. Okay, we can. Like, I can. Give me 1 second.
What it say? You ain't got shit. What it say? Is I mean, I can do it here. I'll African do it right religion.
Sorry, let me open ChatGPT. Give me 1 second.
I'm curious to see what it say. But
I think I don't know that it'll fully agree, but I'll see.
What is it gonna say? It's gonna say some of the.
It'll pretty much say that Christianity is practiced in Africa. And then maybe some cultural.
So you're gonna stop listening to GPT? You might as well be consistent with it.
Okay.
Be consistent with it. What is that?
So what I did to prepare for this, I'll be honest with you. So what I did was I Googled and then I used the overview and then I found sources.
I did. I knew. I did.
I didn't just like pull the overview. I'm not okay. You
hold on. I knew. That's why I knew it. That's why I mentioned chat. I mentioned chat. I mentioned Google.
But what I'm saying is I didn't use that as like my only source. Like I wasn't like
share my screen, Doc, while he's talking.
Share. Am I doing it?
No, let him share. Let him share a screen. Go ahead. No. Show your screen. Go ahead.
So is it currently sharing?
Yes.
Okay. So it says short answer: Christianity not started in Africa, but Africa was central to its early development. And then here's a full picture.
Oh, say it again. You said that fast. Say it slow.
Okay, fine. Christianity did not start in Africa, but Africa was central in its early development.
So hold on, Noah. But Noah, you said that Christianity was an African religion. Now read that first line on Chat GPT again.
Christianity did not start in Africa, but
there you
Africa
go.
Was, right.
There you go. So it's not an African.
But the original point I made.
No, go ahead. No, go to the next piece. Go ahead. Let me show you how to use your chat. What do you say?
Here's a full picture where Christianity began. Christianity began in the 1st century CE and in the Eastern Mediterranean specifically. And Roman Judea, modern day Israel, Palestine. Jesus and his earliest followers were Jewish people living in the region. So geographically, Christianity began in Western Asia, the Middle East, not Africa. But Africa was crucial and very important. Christianity spread into Africa almost immediately. Egypt in the 1st century CE. Christianity reached Egypt in the 1st century CE traditionally through traditionally through Mark the evangelist.
Alexandria. Hold on, you want to ask, is Mark an African? Ask that question. Go ahead. That's how we're going to do this.
But you know Noah, when you already, I don't want to use the word beat up, but ChatGPT already told you it didn't start in Africa. It told you everybody was Jewish. It told you where it started at. So it's not an African religion. You got to change. You got to be able to change your position. You know what I mean?
Say that.
You can't just keep sticking and saying it's an African religion, and then all of your sources are saying that it isn't. It didn't start there. The people were Jewish.
I didn't claim that Christianity started in Africa.
No, you said it was African.
If
it's African religion, it started in Africa. What do you mean? Are you serious right
now? You said it's an African religion that started outside of Africa.
Right. What I said was that through its earliest engagement was through Africans.
Okay, I got you.
The religion.
All right, I'm gonna let you slide right there. So now what? Who is Mark?
So to answer the question, Mark the Evangelist, traditionally the author of the Gospel of Mark, is usually identified as Mark in the New Testament, Acts 12:12. Most historians believe he's a Jewish man from Jerusalem or the Eastern Mediterranean.
Mediterranean. Okay, hold, please. Now type your man in. Alexander Hippo. What was his name?
Let me find his name. Sorry, give me one second.
You said Hippo.
Augustine of Hippo.
Type him in. Say, is Augustus a Hippo? Is he an African? Is he indigenous African? Let's see who he is. Let's see. I love ChatGPT. Doc ain't accepting. I love it because you ain't.
I'm not. I'm not saying that Chat.
All right. So short answer.
Hold on, real quick, Noah. I'm never saying that ChatGPT is not.
No, I don't mean that way.
Yeah, you got to know how to use it effectively. That's what I'm saying. I don't. You got to know how to use it effectively.
Trash in, trash out. Go ahead. What did it say?
There you go.
Go ahead. It's ethnicity. Yeah. Go ahead. What did it say?
Go ahead, Noah.
Short answer.
Short answer, yes. Augustine of Hippo was African. More specifically, he was North African. Who was Augustine? Or is it Augustine? Or I think it's Augustine. Born 354 CE. Birthplace Thagaste, modern day Algeria. Died in 430 CE. And Hippo Regius, also modern day Algeria, lived in the Roman North Africa.
Ethnicity.
So, so geographically, he is absolutely African. What is his ethnicity? This becomes more nuanced. North Africa in Augustine's time was part of the Roman Empire. It was ethnically mixed. Indigenous Berber, I don't know how to say this, Amazigh people, Amazigh people, Roman settlers, Phoenician and Carthaginian descendants, some Mediterranean influence. Augustine's mother, Monica, was widely believed to have been a Berber, indigenous North African, and his father, Patricius, was a Romanized North African. Some scholars believe Augustine was likely a Berber by ancestry, but culturally Roman. He spoke Latin and wrote in Latin. Was he black in a modern sense? The question uses modern racial categorizations, did not exist.
Yeah, it didn't exist.
In the same way in the 4th century, North Africans at the time, indigenous, Amazigh, Berber, Mediterranean in appearance, diverse in skin tones. He was African, but probably not sub-Saharan in ancestry. Why does this matter? Augustine is one of the most influential Christian thinkers in history and shaped many ideas. Original sin, grace, rule, the Trinity, Western Christian theology. So one of Christianity's most important theologians was African born and likely indigenous North African and likely of indigenous North African descent.
Yeah, I definitely accept that. So we can check them off the list as being an African. A Berber is an African. There's no one way to look African. I'm not even worried about the Sub-Saharan African part. Okay, my problem is that he's not the type of African that we came from. We don't come out of those traditions. I'm gonna say this again. We do not come out of North African traditions. That's why I was very specific. We come out of North and Central Africans. So just saying is African, we glorify all of Africa. Let's not even get this mixed up. I get that point. You won. I'll give you that point. He is an African, right? Now we need to talk about the custom and traditions that was destroyed by that particular doctrine that was created by this particular Northeast African. Because those custom and traditions come in direct head on. They're diabolically opposed against each other. I don't think you're arguing that point, are you? You can agree to that.
No, that's fine. And I would go as far as say, like, I don't need to win the idea that, like,
he's African. You're right. I mean, I've heard that before all the time. Yeah, that's cool. So share this real quick. Let me share this.
Oh, how do I stop share?
I got it.
So this is called the skin color map. So go back to the Jesus what? He did what? He left that area. So the Hebrews gonna have that same type of skin color too. Because that's up in Jerusalem, they brown skin too. So going to Egypt wasn't no big deal. Not unless he went all the way down to Nubia somewhere, but he didn't. He went somewhere in the they don't even know where he actually went. But we just following along and follow along. But based off this skin color map right here, then you ain't said nothing slick to a can of oil. Because everybody was brown in that area. Yeah, see, because your skin color is based off of UVA rays, not based off of social construct. So that's a wild, that's how they tried to give it to us. Yeah, man, he went to a place, look just like him. Well, hell, everybody around there was brown. And I'm gonna get super slick with you. So if you look at the map and understand human migrations in genetics, right? That's not an issue. He's supposed to be brown. They now, this is the funny part. Once colonialism promoted Christianity, they promoted pictures that look like them. So Jesus wouldn't have never been a quote unquote white person. And in the Mediterranean, they're gonna be brown, light brown. So that's par for the course right there. So it wasn't a trick. It wasn't no spectacular. We blended them in. Anywhere he went, he'd have blended in at that point. So people use that as a point, right? Of like, yeah, he went down and people looked, it was his people. No. So here go the people right here, because this is the light, this is the map, migration map right here. Okay, and we know at 22,000, you had light-skinned people live right here. Okay, you got the origin of blue eyes. The gene is called OCA2. That's 42,000. So that's all in this area that you talking about. Let me make it a little bit bigger. This is the whole area that you talking about right here. See that? That's Africa. That's Jerusalem. So these people was light-skinned at 42,000, 22,000. You look at Anatolia farmers, the Baltic. Look at that. But we want to talk about this area right here. These people, these are non-Africans. Non-Africans. So the whole story is produced, right? All the characters are just non-African. That's my whole point. So now you got non-Africans, you got people in North Africa that are Africans telling a non-African story or putting doctrine into a non-African story. But it actually has nothing to do with right here. Africa. That's what we're talking about. Over here, we way over here, not outside the purple. Meaning they didn't even know about these people. This is where we come from. North, we come from Central and West Africa. There's custom and traditions that you would think is crazy. You would say, I'm not sacrificing the chicken. I'm not sacrificing the bull. I'm not doing none of that. That's crazy. But we'll definitely go to church and drink of the blood, the wine. It's called communion, and eat of the flesh. So if you want to talk about some things that seem to carry ancient traditions, then that would have to be the sacrificing, because that's what early humans did. They sacrificed. Judea, they sacrificed. Moses sacrificed the bull, put the blood in the basin, and sprinkled it on the people. Christianity got away from that. They say, look, we're just going to make one sacrifice. We only got to make the one sacrifice, and that's going to be Jesus, God. But it's still in a sacrificial, sacrificing tradition. So if you want to say the sacrificing tradition is part of the grand scheme of things, I'm going to say, okay, yeah, sacrificing. All ancient cultures sacrifice. They just did. Christianity found the real slick way to box it in, package it real easy, make it real smooth for you, and that's what it is. but Christianity is not an African religion.
Okay. To kind of combat that a little bit, one, I would say most religions, at least in their mythology, are not about people that look like them, right? Like most religions are not about people. Are most religions as they're practiced are not do not have people that look like them. For example, most Buddhism, for example, a lot of Indian religious traditions. Okay. So let me just get the point out, right? That that the people in those religions do not for a religion to belong to a people, the people in the story do not need to look like or originate from the same area or even plane of existence as the people that the religion follow. Right. And at the original point I was making is that since Christianity and Judaism are distinct religions, that the rise and cultural engagement with specifically Christianity was done by Africans to the point that it is an African tradition or African religion, right? That one, the argument does not need to be that all Africans or even a majority of Africans engaged in Christianity for it to be considered an African religion, in the same sense that because of physical barriers that existed that would have stopped people from mass migrating across the continent, their religions would have had to have existed separately. By that same token, West African religions can't be considered African religions if they aren't practiced by every African person. And I don't think that's an argument you would be willing to make, right? So I think
say that again. That's the incoherent. That's an incoherent. Say that again. What I understood your earlier point. I wrote it down about most religions. People don't look like the people. People practice religions where the people don't look like them mostly. I get it because it's global now. I get that.
Not even to that point, but to the.
I think you said that.
Okay, no, that's not exact. I can re-explain that point in a second. But to the point, the other point that I was making, right, is that because Christianity was not practiced throughout all of Africa, Christianity does not need to have been practiced throughout all of Africa for me to defend it, need to defend it as an African religion. Okay. In the same way that West African spiritual traditions that were not practiced throughout all of Africa are still African religions.
I got you. But your point emphasizes Africa, though. You brought that emphasis in.
Right.
I wouldn't care if Jesus was purple. If you believe it, you believe it. You're the one emphasizing the reasoning behind why you think it's dope or whatever. It's because it's African. We found out that it's not actually African, but there was one particular church father. There are many church fathers, right? And they're not African. Okay, so let's get that straight. We can go down a whole list, right? But you emphasize the African part. I didn't emphasize that. So if I believe in Jesus, he could be Chinese. It seems that's your connection to it. Your connection to it is African. Christianity is African. So I'm not even concerned about what your religion is. I'm not even going to ask you that. But I'm saying the fact that you was talking about how Jesus went to Egypt, he must have looked like the Egyptians. Like you have this connection to Africa, right? And I'm gonna let you know that's what we all start at. We all give Christianity a break because we say it's African. And then somebody comes along with an intelligent conversation, and then you got to run to the church fathers. And then we put a whole list of church fathers. Then you realize that most of the church fathers, all of them weren't African. They was this, that Syrian, Greek, boom, boom, they all that. And then you start saying, well, then I would ask you, why is it that you feel the need for a church father or church father to be African? Why is it that you feel the need to think that Christianity is even African? You just believe it. A belief, you don't need none of that. You just believe it. So why do you think saying Christianity is African is important to you?
Okay, so that's like from a belief standpoint, that's not the point I'm making. Like the point I'm making is not that like it being African isn't inherently a reason to believe in it. The point I'm making is that its existence and the way it's been engaged with makes it African, right? So again, the point is that African people's engagement with the religion at its start, at its origin, is what makes it an African religion, right? So that's
In the wrong people's engagement.
African people's engagement in the religion at its start is what inherently.
It didn't start. But you said at its start, but you clearly read it. It didn't start in Africa.
Okay, when I mean so
you read it.
Okay, so when I say
and the people that it started with wasn't African.
Okay, so
you want to make it African, but go ahead.
When I say at its start, I mean like
at its inception.
As the religion, not at its inception, as in like the first day of the religion, or like when the religion, I guess.
So you just saying African people contributed to the development of it. So you making it African. That's what you're saying.
Sure. Yeah. Sure.
But
yeah.
No. But how can just because somebody contributed to the development,
right? But it contributed. But Africans contributed to the religion at an early enough point in the spread of the religion that it can be considered an African religion. Engaged with by Africans before the start of colonialism.
How did African people spread Christianity?
Again, so that was kind of like the point of bringing up people again, like Augustus Hippo.
You named one church father. Did you hear what God Killer told you?
Right.
So it's a whole bunch of church fathers, and you mentioned one out of the list.
Yeah,
and you're saying that they contributed to a couple of them, but
you
said that contributed to the spread of Christianity because of 2-3 people.
Right. So the point being made,
I get you,
is that like.
So let's get technical now. We need to get technical.
Yeah.
Put the map up. This is Paul's mission. Most of the New Testament is dealing with Paul's letters, his mission. This is what Christianity spread. Is this not correct? This is his mission. We can go through all these different journeys right here. This is Paul's mission right here. All that. See? Boom. He went to all the different isles, the Greek isles. He went all Crete, all that. Went and got all that money. Okay? All right? He ain't caring about Africa. It's right here. Christianity is formed in this. Since you want to say it, I gotta say it. Paul. How many books do Paul have in the New Testament? How many letters do he have?
Noah, do you know?
Think about it. We can look it up.
So you don't know how many Paul.
Okay. Paul's mission is serious. He the dude. He the one that fell on his knees and he seen the light and he didn't see it, but he saw it. Right? He the one that did you know Paul resurrected somebody? You know that, right? Jesus wasn't the first person. Paul did it. Paul was put somebody to sleep while he was preaching and they fell out the second floor window. And Paul went down there and rose them for the dead. Paul is Christianity. That's his mission. His mission ain't in Africa. You Christianity, you want to talk about Ethiopian? Ethiopia is not the oldest Christian nation.
Not at all, Mr. No. I tried to tell you that earlier.
It's not that. You can look that up on ChatGPT. And Syrian traders actually bring Christianity to Ethiopia. Okay, Frumentius and Adidas, right? Syrian Greek traders. And Azana, I would say he accepted it for political reasons. And it is what it is. So I'm not knocking at Christianity, but Christianity gets to West Africa when? Later in the game. Nubia becomes Christianized. Hear them words? Christianized. You don't just walk in and make people Christian. Same, you said it, the Arabs colonized. So I'm saying these religions are colonizing forces. You don't you're supposed to have been looking this up, remember? I know you forgot. Go find the indigenous African religions. Go find the indigenous Native American religions that was colonizing places. That's not actually how that worked. People have respect for their totems and respect for their gods. Absolutely. And I'm saying the 3 monotheistic religions is in disrespect to the gods. Listen, it's in disrespect of the gods. Because there can only be one God. Who says that? Why is it just one God? Why is it that human beings have practiced religion for at least 50,000 years, just having some type of system that we can kind of maybe look at a little bit and say, okay, yeah. And it's not until the advent of writing that you start to get these systems. but they never at the one nothing, right? The oneness, the one God, yeah, that's in Persia first. That's monotheism. The strictest form, Zoroaster, holy monster, okay? And that's the one God. Christianity adopts that, right? And they practice the one God. It's clear, Moses clearly, Egypt is an enemy to the Israelites because they worship the gods. Traditional African systems worship the gods. So different human beings have different cultural practices. If you can just get this straight in your head, their cultural practices and ideas, their deified ancestors, the great ancestor. So Christianity, regardless of what you think is African or not, it doesn't take you back to African ancestry. It actually takes the Hebrews back to ancestry. May I bring you to the book of Genesis, the genealogy. The genealogy, have you ever read your genealogy before? Seriously.
Noah.
The genealogy of who? The genealogy of the Hebrews?
The book of Genesis, the genealogy.
Partially.
And why not just read it and see if you get back to Africa?
Right, get back to
African. The genealogy don't say it's African. No, you say it.
Yeah,
but the genealogy doesn't say that. No, that's not. See, it's simple things we can do. Let me read the genealogy tonight. Let me go back, take a drink of Kool-Aid. You better be just drinking Kool-Aid. Let me drink the Kool-Aid. Let me open it up and let me read. Let me see what the genealogy, the people aren't in Africa. The book was not written with Africa in mind. And when they do run across Africans, they become the enemies.
Absolutely.
Of the Hebrews.
Brother Ankh, do you want to break down the genealogy for him, or you want to give that to him as a homework assignment?
As a homework assignment. Read the genealogy. You're going to say, man, this ain't nowhere near Africa. Paul's mission ain't nowhere near Africa. That's the whole. Paul got more books. You just got Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and the rest of them is Paul.
Okay.
So I just want to know about the African spread into Christianity. You know, you said the African, he just showed you the map. Paul was responsible for the spread of Christianity, and you don't see him spreading it through Africa. I mean, in Africa, you see him, you look at the map. Yeah, and so you're saying that the African people spread it, and you name 3, church fathers, but like you said, there's a laundry list of them, but you name 3 of them. That's not making, then it tell you, the chat told you it didn't start in Africa. So you still, after being shown all of this evidence, Mr. Noah, you still believe that Christianity is African religion? Look at the map. You said the Africans spread it. They didn't. Clearly, look at the map. They didn't. You learned that it didn't start. You read the genealogy. Africa's not mentioned, and you still want to hold on to the idea that Africa is that Christianity is an African religion.
Okay, so again, I think that like.
I hear what you're saying.
It's the argument is more right that like early African engagement with. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to push the mic like that. Sorry. Early African engagement with the religion is what inherently makes it an African religion, right? So,
say it again. You said early engagement.
Early African engagement with the religion and the ways that early Africans shaped the religion, especially as we know it today, are what inherently make it an African tradition, or make it an African religion. Divorced from the idea of other African religions, as to say that like because two African religions exist that contradict each other does not inherently make one less African. In the same way that you could make the claim that because you could say that like Christianity as a Northeast African religion contradicts West African religions. Why does it being a Northeast African tradition make it less valuable as an African tradition in comparison to West African tradition?
No, I totally agree with you. I don't.
It does not make it less. If it does not make it right, but then that gets to your point about how because most like West African traditions or West and Central African traditions are polytheistic traditions. That does not mean that Christianity is not an African like religion. Just because
I agree. I'm not actually fighting that point.
Okay.
Remember, I think you proved that point. I think we looked at the early church fathers, right? We not tripping off that, right? So it's an African religion then, right? With no African characters in it. that becomes wild. That means that those Africans that you claim was actually doing it didn't give a damn about Africa. They were saying, I'm a Palestinian. They was tripping. Meaning they didn't forge something out of their thing. They didn't forge something out of where they was at. They actually stole something for real. You was actually looking at people stealing other people's traditions, shaping it and informing it. Why didn't they use some of their people? They had stories. Canaanite deities, Phoenicians, right? You talk about Carthage, right? Where the guy come from, right? Carthage had his own type of religion. So what happened here? So you're basically saying it's an African religion without no African people.
No.
Hold on. Yeah, hold on. So
That's
Noah.
a good one.
Yeah. So Noah at the beginning. I know.
So this
Hold on, Noah. At
You
the
won,
beginning,
Noah. Hey, you know what?
This is about what it is.
You're right.
Hold on, y'all.
Hey, Doc.
I'm trying to get in real quick, y'all. Y'all ain't let me talk. So look, I was going to ask you, Noah, real quick. Earlier, Ankh mentioned the dumb diverses and the Romanist Panafex and the Intercatera. Are you familiar with that?
No, not necessarily.
Okay. So Ankh and I have been dealing with that for years. All right. So I'm gonna share something. Now let me share my screen. All right. And he tried to help you out at the beginning. Ankh tried. He was like, And so Pope Nicholas V, he wrote something. I pronounce it the dumb diverses. And he created this on June 18, 1452. And so it says right here, according to the Historical Encyclopedia of World Slavery on page 469, it was a papyrus bull. So it says the bull conceded to Portuguese King Alfonso the right to attack, conquer, and subjugate Saracens, and I read this earlier, pagans and other enemies of Christ, wherever they to be found. It also recognized title over lands and possessions seized and allowed the Portuguese to render the inhabitants into perpetual slavery. So it says, although the geographical scope of the bull remained undefined, it is clear from the use of the terms pagans and other enemies of Christ that the Pope intended it to apply to the regions newly made known by the Portuguese voyages of explorations along the West African coast. All right, this is how we got exposed to Christianity. Okay, right, this is how we got exposed. Hold on one second. Let me build. And this right here, you're looking at an actual copy of the dumb diverses. This is a facsimile of the papyrus bull or the papal bull. Okay, this is what it looks like. This is an actual copy of it. So people can't say, oh, well, she's reading out of the Historical Encyclopedia, World Slavery. Where is the actual bull? This is the actual bull. Okay. And then right here, look at this. Pope Nicholas V, he had something called the Romanist Pontifex. That was published. Look at this. 3 years later. And it says right here, given the dumb diverses had only authorized the Portuguese to enslave Africans through raids and conquests. Wait a minute, raid? Some people said that the Portuguese didn't raid. They didn't raid. The Africans just gave them people. But through raids and conquests, a new sanction had to be sought to justify this regularized commerce with non-Christians. Hold up. He called the Africans non-Christians. To this end, the Portuguese petitioned Nicholas for the second dispensation, and the result was the Bull Romanus Pontifex of January the 8th, 1455. After confirming the provisions of the dumb diverses and outlining the Portuguese discoveries along the African coast in this second bull, Nicholas noted enthusiastically that through trade and fighting, the Portuguese had captured many slaves who had been brought back to Portugal and baptized. So they weren't Christians, brother. And this right here is a copy of the Romanist Pontifex right here. This is a facsimile of it. So you have, it doesn't exist, Dr. Mike. Yes, it does. And here is the copy. Last one, Pope Alexander the Sixth, his Intercatera was published on May the 4th, 1493. And in it, it established a demarcation line of 100 leagues west of the Azores and Cape Verde Islands and assigned Spain the exclusive right to acquire territorial possessions and to trade in all lands west of that line. All others were forbidden. You talk about spread of Christianity right here. All others were forbidden to approach the lands west of the line without special license from the rulers of Spain. This effectively gave Spain a monopoly on the islands in the New World. The bull stated that any land not inhabited by Christians was available to be discovered, claimed, and exploited by Christian rulers, and declared that the Catholic faith and the Christian religion be exalted and be everywhere increased and spread, that the health of souls be cared for, and that barbarous nations be overthrown and brought to the faith itself. Now, I do want to say this, Noah. When you talk about the Bible, Brother Ankh and I had like a debate probably about 12 years ago, and I was in touch with the guy. Brother Ankh, I forgot his name. We was emailing him back and forth. He's like an authority on Christianity, and in his work, he talked about how Christianity made it around the world via the transatlantic. Ankh always calls it the kidnapping trade, but it made its rounds during the transatlantic slave trade. It was not. So when you talk about the spread of Christianity, Brother Ankh showed you Paul, and I know he went way back in time, but I'm kind of bringing it up to showing you when it really became global. And it became global through the transatlantic slave trade. And let me show you something, and I'll go to Africa real quick. Do you know where this is, Noah? You ever seen this place?
I believe so. I'm not sure specifically where it is. I assume it's somewhere in the Americas.
No, this is not in the Americas. This is the Elmina dungeon that's in Ghana. And I had the privilege of going there and touring it in 2019. I actually took my son there. And so it's a dungeon. This is where our ancestors were kept, and they were housed there, and they stayed there until the ships came to take them, to take them and ship them around the world. Inside of the inside of the dungeons, they actually have a church. You're looking at the Portuguese church that was in the middle of the dungeon. And you see me standing right there. I need to get back to that weight right there, Brother Ankh. So you see me standing right there, pointing at the sign that says the Portuguese church. Is actually now a museum when you walk in there, but it was a church right in the dungeons. And so you're looking at entrances to the dungeon. You see on the right, that's the male slave dungeon. To the left was the female slave dungeon. And I toured all of them. But they also had, a church there. All right. They had a church there. Do you know where this place is, Mr. Noah? Have you ever seen this place? This is Cape Coast. This is Cape Coast Dungeon in Ghana. This is another place where, African people were kept until the ships came. And right over top of the male dungeon, there was a church. Okay. There was a church there. This was our introduction, Noah, to Christianity. This was our introduction. Church sitting right over top of the dungeons. There was a guy named Philip Kwaku. Philip Kwaku, his father had sent him over. Where did he go, Brother Ankh, to go to school? Did he go to Portugal? I know he sent them out of the country. He was an African. Philip Kwaku was sent somewhere for school, but he became like a pastor or a minister. And he spent his years in Cape Coast baptizing African people, converting them to Christianity. And this is where he's buried at in Cape Coast. But they didn't bury him with the white folks, the captains and all of them. They buried him over there in the corner. You know what I mean? They buried him over there in the corner. Okay. So I'm showing you this, Noah, to show you our, and when I say our, I'm talking about West and Central Africans, our introduction to Christianity. Okay. I know, you guys are talking about the Bible and you went there, but I wanted to show you. And Ankh also said, that's not us. He kept telling you, that's not us. We're West and Central Africans. And so I just kind of wanted to bring it home to show you our connection to Christianity. And when we first, our lineage, because your family's from Nigeria, correct? When West African people got exposed to Christianity. I land my plane right there.
Okay, yeah. So this kind of goes back to the earlier point, right? That I don't need to win that Christianity was a religion practiced throughout every part of Africa for it to be an African religion, right? So yeah, I can concede, sure, that papal orders allowed for the colonization of Africa, right? I'll go as far as to say, though, that is a misinterpretation and misengagement with the religion, hence the 95 thesis, right? Like that whole concept is that even other Christians at the time would have criticized the Pope for those actions, right? So that those actions are inherently anti-Christian. But even if we don't need to have that argument about like how Christianity like functions or its engagement in geopolitics and historical events, right? That does not disprove the point that Africa that because of Christianity's engagement in North Africa ties it to being an African religion, even in the part of the papal order that speaks of the Berbers, it speaks like this mind you, these are 1400 years after the start of Christianity, right? By that, at that time, the Berbers had become Muslim, which was the justification for those orders. But even still, at the start of Christianity and at the start of like of the religion as it first spread, mind you, Christianity entered Africa via Egypt in 50 AD, meaning that like this is like I think Jesus dies in 30 AD, so about 20 years later, Christianity finds itself in Africa, right? And it is heavily being influenced by Africans as the religion forms, right? Because you're right, yes, it did form through trading, but a lot of the first spreading of the religion happens in Africa and then trades outwards again, right?
Well, he showed you a map that
right. So what he showed, the map he showed is
Paul
about how Paul started the Christian church, not about the start of Christianity. Those letters are about the start of the church and how Jesus told them to start the church, not the spread of Christianity and the concepts and the ideas of religion. Because by the time the spread,
Noah, say it slower, Noah.
Sorry, that map is about how
Paul established the church. Hold on, wait.
Jesus told them to establish the church, not Christianity as a religion.
Oh, so why
acts as a fundamental body to spread the word of God? Does not act as the word of God itself.
No, Christianity got spread around the world during the transatlantic slave trade.
Right,
you're not gonna get around that. You're not gonna get around that.
When I say spread, I don't mean spread as in spread around the world. I mean spread.
Now, I got you, Noah. Let me jump in, Noah. So Jesus ain't telling them to go to Africa?
What do you mean by that? So sorry, I misunderstood. I understood your question. So
hold on. Hey, no, hold on. No. What the hell's going on here? Like Jesus ain't telling, hey man, you need to go, go where your people at. He sent them to the Isles of Greece. So he didn't send them. Listen, we're saying the formulation of the church, bro. Right?
Paul formed
listen, Paul wrote 13 letters.
Was not tied. After the death of Jesus. Jesus didn't talk to Paul at all. Paul was originally Saul.
You know what I can't let you do?
Christian martyr.
You know what I can't let you do? If you take Paul away, you don't got no Christianity.
Facts.
You're done.
Facts.
Now, I know you don't. Now I know you coming real eloquent with this. You can't do Paul like that. Because then you're not a Christian.
Yeah, if you ain't got Paul,
you ain't got Christianity. No, you ain't got Paul. You ain't got Christianity. No,
you ain't got
no.
What do you mean Christianity as like a theological body?
Paul, I'm saying you ain't got no damn. If I start taking books out the Bible,
so it's not about taking books out of the Bible. Paul's role in the story of Christianity
is the
spread of the church, not
how essential is it
to the spread of the church. Sure, we can
Christianity.
Fine, we can like.
And Paul ain't African either.
And Paul not African.
That's fine. We can say that Paul is like an essential member of the church. But even after the spread of the church, the Christian Bible would not be canonized till after his death. So
now hold on.
Right. So Christianity as a religion wasn't even done being formed until after he died.
We're gonna get some preciseness here. So you need to admit right now that Christianity is a Western Asian religion that became one of Africa's influential religious traditions, right? Through certain intellectuals, and you named them. But it's a Western Asian religion. I'm not going to leave this table till you admit that. Hey, man, you know what? Christianity, it is a Western Asian religion with influences from Berbers in North Africa, which has absolutely nothing to do with the customs traditions I had in Nigeria, in West Africa, nowhere else. You at least got to admit that.
And hold on, and let me say this before we begin. I said it. Like, now I don't want to, Noah. You know, man, you my guy. You know that. I want to classify you as an intellectual, not a non-intellectual. Okay. And so remember, in intellectual discourse, remember we went through this earlier, is a respectful dialogue, which we're having, rational thinking, which I think we're having, clear and well articulated points, which we're having, evidence-based reasoning. I don't really feel like you showed a lot of evidence, but openness to correction. You cannot say you're an intellectual and someone is putting things in front of you and they're showing you that your position is false, and you as an intellectual don't say, hey, I got to make that adjustment. That's what intellectuals do. That's what intellectuals do. When you are an intellectual, it's times I get stuff wrong and I will argue Ankh down, or Ankh will get something. Hold on, I hear some. I don't know what that is, but Ankh, I will argue Ankh down. Ankh, I will argue him down, or he'll argue me down, and we'll show each other the evidence. And then Ankh will come back. You know what, Doc? You was right. Or I go back, Ankh, you was right. That's what intellectuals do, Noah. You're swinging, you're getting beat up, you're on the ropes, you're on the ground, you're still swinging. And if you are a true intellectual, just like it was times where you make good points. And you know what Ankh said? Ankh said, man, you know, I'll give you that. Yes, that is a no fact. Yes, I agree with that. It hasn't been one thing that I've noticed. Yeah. It's not one time have I noticed you can see and say, daggone, they did say it didn't start in Africa. None of these people are African. I can change my position and say, you know what? It's not an African religion, but there was some African influence, and there was some people who contributed to its development. As an intellectual, can you make that adjustment, Noah? Or do you still want to hold true to Africa being Christianity being an African religion with no African people? Go ahead.
Go ahead. So here, I'll make a set of concessions. One, the spread of Christianity as it pertains to areas outside of North Africa is directly tied to colonialism. Yes, that the people in the Bible may not are not Africans. Yes, that the spread of Christianity as a global religion is inherently tied to the transatlantic slave trade. Yes, right. With that said,
it's a Western Asian religion. You can't leave that out.
Sorry, Western Asian religion. Yes, sorry.
With early influence of African intellectuals, like we agree to that. Like there's no debate.
But that part, right? That it is the fact that it is influenced.
Okay, I like that.
It is influenced by Africans, and is what makes it an African religion, right? That like I think that
no, hold on. I agree.
Definitions are being tied to it that I would not.
Listen, watch this. Now let's get serious. Now let's deal with when we say African, right? That's like saying Europe or Eurasia and connect all the people together. So now, do you agree that the Northeast African sector has absolutely nothing to do with the sector that we came from?
Yes.
Where your great grandparents then was born, have nothing to do with it at all. The Berbers, they're different people. They don't even know you and wouldn't give a damn about you. That's why we never say that Africans enslaved Africans. It's a wild colonial statement. We say different polities in Africa. Polities enslaved each other. Different governments, different city-states enslaved, different clans, different tribes. It's not connected like that. We need to really make this distinction here. So with that distinction, I would concede to the intellectual thought coming from a segment of Africa, no problem. But that segment had absolutely nothing to do with Africans in West Africa, Central Africa, Nigeria, Congo, the Bongo, whatever you want to say. I think that needs to be noted. So now you can no longer use the fact that you had intellectual thinkers in Northeast Africa to tie it to the whole of Africa. That'd be ridiculous. Just as ridiculous as you claimed it would be to say that the West African religion was practiced by all Africans. I got it, bro. I'm thinking real sharply. So now we got to admit it. There is no such thing as one African. That'd be ridiculous and very childish of me and you.
Right. I'm not. So, okay. So,
okay.
Again,
so
I will. Right. So, ready. Okay. I will concede the idea that Africa, that like these are two different sets of people, and that their engagement with each other is like inherently indifferent, right? Or inherently undifferent.
Yeah, so don't use African. Usually,
right?
We know their names now. We figured it out. Hippo.
Right.
The Carthaginian. Say the Carthaginians added to Christianity.
This goes back to the original point of why does it being like a northeast African make it less African than if it was West African?
No. Hold on.
Okay, then we aren't. Then right. Then we're agreeing on the point that it's African. If being Northeast African makes it inherently African.
No, we're saying that there is no such thing as inherently African. That they're different people all together, bro. Right. And this is the way we need to start measuring, because a Christian will say, the Africans enslaved Africans. That's a bunch of crap, bro. The Africans did not enslave the Africans.
I don't need, but I'm not making that point. I don't.
You are making that point. You're making that point. No, you're making that point.
Because, that's like saying Shintoism isn't an Asian religion because specifically Japanese people like follow it. It's still an Asian religion because those are still Asian people.
No.
How are those two different points?
Because white people are Asian. Excuse me. White people are Asians, aren't they? Don't they live on the continent of Asia? Or am I tripping?
Okay, yeah.
Europeans live on the continent of Asia.
Yes, Europeans are Asian.
Okay,
that still does not negate the point that it is inherently an Asian religion. In the same
no,
way,
it's not. It's inherently the name of the people that you're talking. You got to name the people, not the name the people that you're talking about.
Okay, right? By that metric, no religion can be directly tied to a continent. At best,
no, they're tied to a continent, but they're not tied to the people of all the people in the continent. I'm gonna say it again. It's tied to the continent.
Okay, that's the point I'm making. That
Judaism is tied to the continent of Western Asia. We already agreed with that. It's not tied to the continent of Africa. It conquered Africa. So you got some wild Africans in the northeast sector of Africa that added doctrine to a group of people that wasn't even them. They was Western Asians, right? Added their intellectual prowess to an outside force that would later on come in and conquer all of them. That's what they get. See, that's what they get. If that's what you're saying happened, that's what they get. You're right. You got me, bro. You're right. There's a whole religion full of non-Africans and a smart African guy where they say, oh, man, add the doctrine to it. I got it. It's the doctrine there. And they come back and eat him up, eat his whole. That's funny. That's wild. Precautionary. Christianity, we just learned something today. Christianity is a precautionary tale. Be careful what you add your intellectual thought to. It might just come back and conquer you.
I'm not going to disagree with you on that, right?
You got me.
But the point, I will still stand on the point that because it is inherently engaged with and practiced at an early iteration by the people of a continent, it is inherently tied to that continent.
No, I'm not saying it what. No, it's not inherently. No, it's part of. That's like saying in America, Christianity been practiced in America for 500 years. So now Christianity is tied to America, right?
As it pertains,
it's the same amount of time, bro.
As it pertains to the United States. Listen, Dr. Bailey, I have made many concessions, and so
you did. Yeah, he made some concessions.
You did. I make concessions too. I make
Africans
don't got nothing to do with each other.
Right. Yes. I will. I was never arguing that was inherently untrue. Right. But this goes back to the earlier point, or I think
we figured it out.
I think we agree for the most part. I think where the disagreement comes from is maybe even just the wording of the phrase and what it
Christianity is an African religion.
I'm
not agreeing with that.
Wow, nobody can agree with that.
So ain't nobody believe that.
In calling it African, right?
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that its inherent ties to African people makes it African. In the same way that a dish can be African. Right, but it's tied. Right, I did though, right? Because we agreed.
No, you didn't. It didn't start there. It's non-African people, and then you want to say it was created by African. It's African. It's African. It's African.
I didn't.
You said it was. You said it was an African religion.
I said it was an African religion due to its cultural engagement and influence from Africans. That's the point. We could go back. That's the point I've been making the entire time.
Hold on. Wait. Let me hold on. What?
And that it is an African religion.
No, so why? Hold on. Wait. Why ain't it? All right. No, I like this. Explain this. You're an intellectual thought person.
I'm trying to think something different. Go ahead, Noah.
Good. Hey, Noah.
He said, "Don't do me like that." I'm just saying, Noah.
Hey, Noah. Hey, Noah. I know your name, Noah, and it tie you to the Bible. That's why you're fighting hard. I get it. It got meaning to it.
Yeah, he on.
But I'm saying, though, hold on, yo. If a couple intellectuals from Africa can add to a religion, and you say that make it inherently African, what about all the people that's in the Bible that's not African but Western Asia, non-Africans? Why ain't it inherently Palestinian Judean? You ain't nobody saying that, but a couple like Vince Bantoon and them. They trying to be slick. They playing with our intellectual real estate. They actually scamming. They scamming because that's not the Christianity you got. You got the Romanized Nicene Council, all the council. And then hold on.
When we spoke this afternoon, when we originally spoke this afternoon, what I said was the Hellenized version of Christianity.
No, wait.
Is not an African religion. That's the first. That's what we said.
Oh my goodness. So wait, I like it. Hold on.
Right.
Hold on.
No. I'm never saying that point.
So you saying the version we got?
That in class today?
No, I got you. So you basically saying she's saying the conversation. So fine. So you saying what we got as the people is the Hellenized version, the white version.
Yeah, I'd never disagree with that statement.
What they got in Nigeria was the white version.
I said that. Dr. Bailey, I said that. I said that at the start of the conversation, and I said that we were on the phone. I didn't say that.
Yeah, why Christianity ain't inherently Western Asia if all the people in the Bible are Western Asian? It's like
do you hear the point? That's why I said, Noah, you know what he's saying. You just don't want to concede, Noah. He said, if all the people in the Bible are Western Asian, why can't we say the religion is
didn't say you couldn't. I never said you couldn't say that.
Oh my God.
So
I never said you couldn't say that. So yes, a culture, especially if you look at the regional map you showed, it spans the entire area into Africa. At that map you show with the purple highlighting, it's highlighted in parts of Africa. So even your old sources flow like with my arguments. Like you
that shows how Christian. No, hold on, stop.
Unless I'm misinterpreting the map, which I could very well be doing. If I'm misinterpreting
the map is showing what the world was to them, not
that map, the purple map.
It's this map right here. It was just clearly showing right here. Do we got it? Yeah, this map right here was just saying what the whole world was. That's the whole world. You get it?
Yeah. Okay. So this is the map that shows
of the whole world.
Right.
That means ain't nobody else living.
Right. No,
they don't know nothing about nothing. And so this ain't got nothing to do with the spread of Christianity. Nothing. It's what the Bible is talking about. It ain't even talking about me and your world, bro. They didn't even know we existed.
That's why I'm not disagreeing with that statement.
I know.
I'm not disagreeing with that.
So we're agreeing that the Bible is full of people from Western Asia. Some slick guys from North Africa dive in the fray, add some intellectual thought to it. And that's what it is. I bet. And then we recognize that, whoa, wait a minute. That just because you're on a continent don't mean that we joined. Don't mean that that's our ancestry. Nigerian ancestors don't come from that area at all.
And I'm agreeing with you.
So we got it now. So I think we got this straight, because when we first taught that, we thinking that, hey man, it come from Africa. It actually don't. It starts in Western Asian traditions, and it get modernized by some African thinkers. That's what happened, and I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I'm cool. If you frame that, no, I'm cool. But when you just say Christianity is an African religion, that's when you lose.
That's crazy.
Okay.
You say that it's a religion that started in Western Asia and some African people contributed to its development. I would be like, okay, cool. But if you say that Christianity is an African religion, you don't make that statement again. No.
What I'm saying is that contribution in and of itself is what makes it African. Now, if you want to we're not going to say no. That's what I'm saying all the time. That's what I'm saying all the time.
We're not going to say that it was so greatly influenced by African that makes it African. We're not doing that. That's when your stuff crashes.
You know what's funny though, Doc? But then you want to take out the main piece. You know what the real main piece is?
What's the main piece?
That the piece that our ancestors got was what they're trying to say is Hellenized, but it was the Romans in those conferences. They control those. They control those arenas, and they the ones that canonize that. So once again, you got Mediterranean people that canonize and put the whole thing together. It's
the Bible was canonized by the Romans. The Bible was canonized after its engagement.
I said in Rome. No,
Right.
but it was
the Second Council of Nicaea was the canonization.
No, they didn't canonize all the books. No, hold on, all the books wasn't canonized. None of them was canonized in the Nicene Council, and all of them wasn't canonized at the second thing. My point is brought together by European thought, European money, and European power. And Doc, I'm gonna end with that right there. I'm gonna say it again. It was brought together by Mediterranean, European power, Mediterranean, European money and power, not African power. It just was some crazy Africans that put some thought into it, and they got robbed immediately. Oh, they thought. That's funny. We got the, like you said, the Hellenized version of it.
Yeah, I mean, and I just want to say this. Shout out to Nikki. She over in IG.
Shout out. Doc, I gotta get out of here. Go ahead. Out of here.
All right, go ahead, brother. I appreciate
Shout out to everybody,
through.
man. Hey, brother, appreciate the conversation, man. Ankh versus ChatGPT. That was fun.
ChatGPT is crazy.
Yeah, but yeah, but appreciate you, Ankh. But look, this is so Noah, this is what we're saying, right? That's where you lose right there. Like if you say again that Christianity is a West Asian religion and there was some African thinkers from North Africa who contributed to it, yes. But to say that their contribution and influence was so great that it now makes that religion inherently African, that's when you lose. That's when you lose. All right. But anyway, Noah, I do appreciate you for hopping on, man. It took some guts. You're not used to coming on podcasts, right? You ain't used to coming on podcasts, and you thought it was just going to be a slaughter, and it wasn't, man. So I do appreciate you for coming on. And Noah, I will see you tomorrow at 9 a.m.
9 a.m. Yes, ma'am. 9 a.m.
All right, man. You take it easy. Have a good one, man.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, man. Family, before you get out of here, make sure you see me rocking the Carter G. Woodson t-shirt right here. We also have a Carter G. Woodson hoodie. Please head on over to meltrek365.com. I'm going to throw the link in the chat. meltrek365.com. I'm also going to put it up on the screen so you can see it. Head on over to meltrek365.com. Grab your Carter G. Woodson hoodie. All right. We only doing 100 t-shirts, 100 hoodies. High quality. This is good quality. These ain't those hard shirts, hard t-shirts and hard hoodies. I like my t-shirts and my hoodies soft. All right. So if you come over to meltrek365, click on the link right here or click on the picture. All right. You see these are unisex hoodies. So we got the hoodies for the sisters and the brothers. All right. So make sure that you grab it. Okay. Or you can grab the t-shirt that I'm rocking. All right. Like I said, it's unisex. Here's a female. Here's a male. All right. And like I said, you can get this from meltrek365.com. Family, I just want to thank each and every one of you from the bottom of my heart for pulling up on us tonight. And make sure that you join me back here at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this Sunday. All right. We're going to continue to celebrate Black History Month. We will be discussing the miseducation of the Negro. This Sunday, we will be discussing the miseducation of the Negro. I got some students from Bowie State University. I think it's either Bowie University or Bowie State, but Bowie, they're coming on with their professor. We're going to it's going to be a powerful build on the miseducation of the Negro book. So family, make sure that you hop on Sunday, subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell so that as soon as I go live, you will be notified. Before you get out of here, family, thumb up the video, thumb it up. Subscribe, and also head on over to Meltrek365. Grab your Carter G. Woodson t-shirts. Let's wear our culture. Peace and Black excellence.